Okay, it's day 3, Romford Film Festival. Here with some filmmakers behind one of the great short sessions we've just seen. Can you just introduce yourself and the name of your film and your role within it, please?
Sure. My name is Liban Pezzack, and I wrote and directed January 19th.
I'm Joe McGowan. I wrote, produced, directed and edited P is for Penis.
My name is Siddharth Menon, and I co-wrote and directed The Tipping Point.
Wonderful. First thing out the way, Joe, welcome back to Romford.
Thank you very much.
Because you grew up here and you used to come to this cinema, I understand.
Yes, so 25 years ago this cinema was an Odeon, and this was my childhood cinema.
Mm-hmm.
So actually getting to screen here is pretty amazing. Films I vividly remember seeing here were Space Jam,
Nice.
Pokemon the movie, The Grinch with Jim Carrey, and I have a distinct memory of being annoyed that they were showing Titanic all day, but only one showing of Mortal Kombat.
I think I saw Titanic in the cinema as well myself, actually. It's rubbish. But anyway, what is it like seeing, coming back and seeing your film up here on a screen? How does that feel?
Oh, it's great. I didn't really have it on my list of things to do for 2025, but I remember coming to this, before when it was an Empire a few years ago. I just came as to come see a regular film. I can't remember which one, and I saw Romford Film Festival banners out. I was like, "There's a festival here? Didn't know about that. I'm from here. I should know this." And then checked it out, and then about a year later, I started making short films again. And I was just like, "It's on the list, so I'm going to enter it." And here we are. So yeah, it's great to be home.
Yeah. Same question to the other two. What's it like seeing your film up on a big screen? Are you still critical, or do you still enjoy it?
I think it's impossible to be objective because I've seen it, as I'm sure you guys have, 1,000,001 times. So it's really hard to take a step back and try and see what's good and bad about it. But fingers crossed, it resonated. So, yeah.
How about you, Sid?
Same. I mean, I think every time I see it, I find a flaw that I'm like, oh my god, why are we staying on this shot for so long?
Mm-hmm.
I felt the credits were like 4 years long.
Right.
I was like, just shot in the credits, and all minor things. I was just like, okay, it's after a point you're like just finding all the flaws in it. At least for me, I can't speak for others.
Do you want to start us off? How did the idea of the concept of the film first come into being? How long did you work on it for?
So The Tipping Point was basically, so before I joined film school and went into the film world, I was working as a risk management consultant. So I was very much in the corporate world, and I used to report to a female boss, and I just felt that the kind of like work and the kind of like performance, and also the kind of performance she had to put in to get, if not the same or higher amount of like rewards, accolades in the workplace, was much higher than a lot of her other peers, of the other sex.
Yep.
So I just felt that was kind of like the starting point of it, and I was like, okay, what can I do to create like a film that kind of showcases women in that particular power, and also I'm always a fan of like having stories where people from two different walks of life kind of intersect.
Okay.
And I thought it would be interesting to see this, and intersect, and as well as to see stories wherein it's very difficult for you to choose the side of morality. So in The Tipping Point, one of my key factors was that I didn't want us to, side by any of the characters.
Okay.
I wanted us to like, while there is, obviously there's a human life taken, I didn't want people to judge the CEO for wanting to stand by her company.
Right.
And I didn't, and kind of like playing by the rules. She's not perhaps being an evil capitalistic woman. She's just saying, she's trying to be humane and say that we are very sorry for what you went through.
Yeah.
But at the same time, obviously human nature wants us to like side by the mother who's lost her child. So I just loved that conflict of like, what if, who are we supposed to choose as an audience? Like, how can we, it's that inner conflict that inculcates within us also. So all of these factors put together, I was like, okay, how can we create a short film? And then that got me thinking as to, okay, let's make it about these two women who, very unlikely for a homemaker and a female CEO to be in the same room in nighttime in a boardroom of a high story building. And so just from there, and then one led to the other, and I and my co-writer, we kind of like brainstormed and came to a lot of the final what we saw right now.
Joe, different tone maybe to Sid's film.
Just a tad.
You know, how did the inspiration concept come to you?
So with the film, I wanted to accomplish a few things. First and foremost, I wanted to write a villain, someone who, you know, you walk past the Weatherspoons at 10 in the morning and there's someone there with a pint in their hand already. That's the kind of character I wanted to write. Or someone who you see on the train, you make eye contact with them briefly, they go, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
That's a fun character I want to delve into. So there was that. And then I wanted to practice sort of multicam shoot with comedy, because then you get a better flow for you know, comedic conversations. And what was the third one? I did have it. It was ever been in a social situation where someone said something about someone else in the group while they're not there that they shouldn't have said, and then they come back and then everyone has to kind of play dumb that no one's knows this embarrassing secret. I just thought that's a really good you know, concept for a comedic scene. So yeah, you know, comedy and conflict go hand in hand. In terms of, you know, the misshapen penis idea, I was kind of running these ideas past my lovely fiance in the car sort of a year and a half ago, and I was just like, okay, what could this embarrassing secret be? And I just very quickly landed on a misshapen penis. I was like, right, okay, what shape's it going to be? Could it be a triangle? Could it be a square? Could it be a number? I was like, oh, what's your...
Hexagon.
Yeah, parallelogram. I was like, no, do you know what about a letter? Okay, so A, B, C, D, went through. I was just like, what about like a lowercase t? Because it would go down and curve and have bits come out the side, maybe like that. You know, so that's weird. And then, you know, I'm saying all of this to my fiancée Jill, which you, and I'm like, and then it'd spell the word two, because it'd be a T and two O's. And then she goes, well, if it was the letter P, it would spell the word poo. And I went, I fucking love you. You just wrote the best joke of the film. Yeah. Well, I proposed literally like a couple of months after that, to be fair. So, and then it was just like, it could be called P is for penis, you know, and it all just sort of happened in a car journey, really. It's like, right, okay, I've got the basis of something stupid, but it sounds fun to make. So.
About yourself, Jim?
Yeah, this is a huge contrast, inspiration, that's for sure. I think however you cut it, bereavement is a kick in the teeth. It's a reminder that everything is mostly meaningless. You're trying to reconcile what's been and gone with the reality of the here and now, but you're also dealing with this ever-present, lingering worry of how much time you might have left, because it's finite and it's always fleeting. January 19th deals directly with the anxieties of someone who is quite literally face-to-face with eternity. The eventual vanishing metaphor isn't just about vaudeville traditions or the mysticism of magic. On a deeper level, I intended it to be somewhat existential. To me, death is just one big question mark, as I'm sure it is to plenty of people in this room. And in the end, who really knows what's next? I've often wondered if it is real, maybe heaven's just a place where we're reunited with the person or period of our lives that made us feel the most content and connected. I think it's no wonder that the terminally ill find courage and comfort in that concept, even if it is just a fantasy. It's a bit bohemian, but I firmly believe that art can be transformational and cathartic. Maybe I'll get scoffed at for saying this, but it's probably the closest I've ever come to a feeling of real transcendence without narcotics as aside. Yeah, I made it in response to the deaths of my grandfather, my uncle. Not long after that, broke up with a long-term partner and lost a childhood friend to suicide not long after that as well. Those experiences in succession really shook my worldview, and I suppose in a sense really forced me to confront the fragility of life head on. And yeah, this was my attempt to turn a negative into a positive, I suppose.
Very well said. Cast is always really important, especially in short films and in dramas and comedies alike. I think comedies are underrated in the fact that you really have to get your cast correct, because otherwise you can write the best kind of lines, but if they can't deliver them, then it's meaningless. All of your films had great cast. How did you go about that process? Do you want to start on the end?
Sorry. I think it was fairly like I would say normal. We reached out to a lot of theatre groups and acting groups, and we said that okay, we'd love to kind of cast these particular roles. A lot of them, in fact, not the three leading ladies, but all of the supporting cast members, they kind of all knew each other already because we went to the same kind of a few same acting groups. And then I'm sure like all budding filmmakers will know like Mandy backstage and all are your best friends in some sense. So we did cast one or two characters from Mandy and backstage. The role of Kiera, who plays the head of communications, she was somebody whom she acts in a lot of ad films. In fact, she's in an ad with Helen Mirren, I think. Sorry, not Helen Mirren, Judi Dench. And yeah, she's
another day.
Yes, another day. So it was quite like we were like okay, we're a small film, and we don't want to, and we don't know if your dates are available. So we sent her the script, and she said, okay, I'll get back to you. And I had kept that role kind of like uncast for a couple of weeks, and I said we'll get back to you closer to the shoot. And if you're available, we'd love to have you. She said, because she was prioritizing other commercial work, and rightfully so. And luckily, she was available, and like we brought her on board. And what I think, I'm sure everyone here will agree, but like if your cast members get along well together, it really takes a huge burden off your shoulders when you're directing them as well. And thankfully for me, all the three ladies got along really well. They in fact have a WhatsApp group together still now, and like exchange acting opportunities that come up. And it was quite an integral part. And as they say, like I think casting is, I think around 60 to 70% of directing. So once you've cast right, I think it's just a smooth sailing from there on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's similar thing to Sid. So I got like a casting call out on Mandy, but only for the roles of Tim, who's kind of the wimp, and then Perry, who's the menace of the film. I was probably like a week into writing the film, and I had an idea who the kind of people I wanted for Dom, who's kind of this clueless puppy of a character, just keeps making the situation worse. And an actor, David Hopper, got in touch with me, and he'd seen my stuff before, and he really liked it, and he'd say, I do a lot of comedy, he's my reel, and literally he played, in his reel, he was Dom, like as every character. He was Geordie. That helps because, we've got a Geordie, a Cockney, and sort of quite a neutral accent, so that kind of works with the three. And yeah, it's just like I saw his reel. I was just like, yeah, you can have the role. I'm not gonna go with anyone else. You're perfect. And then yeah, for the other two roles, I think I had about sort of 300 applicants, which I had to get narrowed down to 2. So it was quite a lot. I think everyone's just intrigued by seeing the title "P is for penis" and like, excuse me, and then it sort of goes from there. But yeah, they all came together and they all played off each other so well. I mean, Tim Treelaw, especially, who played Perry, was just fantastic. Like, he's such an amazing actor. Like, his range is ridiculous because he also plays Doctor Who on BBC Radio at the moment, and he's also doing like playing Sherlock Holmes on like a stage play that's touring at the moment. So yeah, his range is amazing. And when we workshop the character, he was just like, do you know, how about I play a bit Sexy Beasts kind of thing. I was just like, yeah, that sounds really good. And he's like, what if I do a line of coke off the bar? I'm just like, that's a bit too much. Yeah. So it's finding that sweet spot while you're going. But yeah, they were fantastic.
Sorry, can you remind me what the
the
question
casting process.
That threw me off, sorry.
Your casting process, how did you find your actors?
Very much a kind of needs must sort of, I hesitate to use the term amateurish, but I sifted through thousands of spotlight auditions and recommendations and that sort of thing. 2 of the cast are in the audience tonight, Oisin Nolan and Melissa Phillips, played the young magician and the nurse. Both fantastic actors, both in their own right. Yeah, I mean, it was a case of building rapport, I suppose, sitting down with each individual cast member, trying to determine what the overarching focus was for the character, sharing experiences of bereavement and loss, and trying to tap into those. And yeah, just, I think that pretty much covers it.
Is there any burning audience questions at this point? Pop your hand up for me. Yeah, please.
I'd like to know what you're working on next.
What you were working on next?
God, the dreadful question. And, I mean, it's a question that I don't ask myself. So. But no, I like experimenting with genres and like changing different genres and like just trying out what are the different formats available. So I'm writing another short which is a horror comedy, and and I love the concept of a Ouija board. So I'm just like figuring out something in that space of like, okay, again, a short film in a horror comedy space is what I'm trying to write.
Sure.
I shot another comedy short last weekend, and it was the worst shoot I've ever had in my life. It was quite a hard day, but the main thing is it's actually going to turn out quite well. Once we're rolling, it's fine. So I was directing this short called Pushing Up Plastic, which is on behalf of a comedy writing student at the National Film and Television School. So I'm sort of on a list of directors that they can reach out to when they come to make a 5-minute film for their second year of their course, I think. So I'm in the edit of that now, and then, but yeah, comedy's mainly my bag, so I'm kind of writing stuff at the moment, here and there. And I've got like a corporate training videos that are led by Humour shoot next week with Kimberly Nixon, who's in Fresh Meat, and Simon Greenall, who's played Michael in I Man and Partridge.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be so yeah, a few good things coming up.
I'm currently working on a Welsh Beacon short film funding application. I think we all know this, but the British film industry is disproportionately skewed in favour of the southeast of England, which seems to eat everything culturally, economically, socially. I'm Cardiff born and bred. My city has nurtured this really great affiliation with the BBC, but there isn't really enough investment being pumped into larger Welsh filmic infrastructure. My pie in the sky aspiration, I suppose, is to try and create a little independent film studio in the south of Wales, fingers crossed. So yeah, I'll be going for that. Building it in London at the moment as a needs must, because this is where the money and the opportunities are concentrated, but eventually we'd like to reappropriate those funds, return home, and hopefully make it a distinctly Welsh venture. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the minute.
Wish you the best of luck with that.
Cheers.
What's one piece of advice, or maybe one thing that you learned from making this film specifically that you came as a revelation to you that you didn't know before? What's one thing you learned particularly from this film? Do you want to go first?
So this is Tipping Point was the first short film that I directed, which is about 4 minutes. Before that, all my short films were like 4 minutes or less. So I mean, I just did 2 of them. So this was like in that space a little more longer duration. I have a very I don't know if I'm in a position to give advice, but like I would say that I think it is just and this is, I'm sure everyone will agree, is that just be courteous to the crew, because a lot of the times you don't understand that just as like being nice to the crew and communicating to the crew and just like being respectful to how much each of them input and being open to like suggestions from all of them, and not to take it as a hit to your ego or insecurity if somebody comes and tells you. To give you a small example, we were filming in a hotel for a particular scene for the Tipping Point, and there was the shot on the bridge just before the titles come, wherein the 2 actors are coming and there's another actor coming from this side, and he gives the news that this employee has committed suicide. Now in my head, my brain was thinking that, like we need to then now get like a insert shot of both these faces, and we need to get this and that and all that. And we were also racing against them. We shot this in February, and there's an entire backdrop of glass against it. And we were like, it was already 3:30 p.m. or so, and we were racing against time, so we were not sure we will be able to cover it. And then I think my first AC, his name is Jonathan Williams, he came and told me like, said, can I give you a suggestion? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he told me like, why don't you just stay on the wide? You don't even need to go into the coverage, and I feel it'll look even more sleeker because we knew the titles were coming after that. That's something that we knew in the scripting stage itself. So we were like, okay, let's. and then I thought to myself, like, yeah, that's so true. So it's just these kind of small aspects that, you never know from where it'll come from the crew. And just to be open to that, and then just to value the suggestions. It's up to you whether you want to incorporate that into the final film or not. But then, at the end of the day, I don't know the work they do. Like, I can't do a focus pulling. I can't sound record for the life of me. I'm deathly scared of cameras. So I'm very dependent on all of them. And I think that makes me all the more humble, and I think I need to, and that's what I think every director would agree, that it's your crew's in some sense more powerful than you are. That's fine.
I kind of learned 2 lessons on this, if I'll squeeze both of them in. So the script was 12 pages.
Right.
We shot in a pub in Bethnal Green, which I paid out of my own pocket to hire. We had it from 7 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Yeah.
So quite a tight day. 12 pages in 8 hours is a stupid amount of work to give yourself. So very quickly, we were kind of cutting a lot of bells and whistles, really. So it was meant to kind of look a bit more cinematic, and it's kind of ended up looking more like sort of an extended sketch, which is fine for what it needs to be, and it keeps the humour and it's fine. But I've learned, okay, if I've only got this much time, then cut the pages down or reassess, kind of thing. The other thing I learned was I also edited it as well, so I wrote it and whatever. But when it came to the edit, I was very adamant of I want to keep all the funny jokes that I've written in, because I'm very proud of them and I want people to laugh at it and say, oh, you did such a good job. I think the first edit I did was a little over 10 minutes, and it took too long for Perry to come back.
Right.
So when he left Dom and Tim, it was just, we needed him back quicker. So I cut another 30 seconds out, and then weren't really missing the jokes that I cut out. And I sent it off to a few more people to watch, and it was again like, it still feels a bit long. There's this one joke, which was about 20 seconds with setup, that was like, I was really adamant on keeping, and my fiance was like, just try without, and you can always put it back in. Like, fair enough. I took it out, watched it, just went, yeah, that's fine. It's not missed at all. So it was a real lesson in ego, in terms of just because you think it's funny and you're proud of it doesn't mean it's not serving the purpose of the film. Yeah. And that's the main thing, is, just leave the ego at the door and do what needs to be done to make the film flow as best as possible, because there's nothing wrong. There's nothing worse than a short film that overstays its welcome, I think.
From a practical perspective, it was fucking expensive. I think if you look around you in almost every industry, it's become incredibly monopolized, I think. We live in a bit of a corporate hellscape at the moment. I also working in the corporate world, to echo your point from earlier, but nothing about this present setup to me inspires entrepreneurship. You're not stimulating market competition when a handful of predator multinationals rule the roost, and I think that centralization affects the quality of the output. This is why you end up with an endless slew of cash grab franchises, remakes, sequels, that sort of thing. And it's symptomatic, I think, of a larger problem that working class people have in terms of getting involved in the arts. If you look at the price of theatre tickets, or if you see how much it costs to attend a music concert or go to an exhibition space, I think it's quite ludicrous. I think we've made an engagement with the arts mostly unreachable for ordinary working class people. And when we do offer them any form of assistance, the level of help is often negligible. So being artistic has become a purview of the rich in a weird sort of way. You can't compete with people whose families can, on a whim, land them lucrative gigs in the best production houses and agencies in the country. You can't compete with blank checks and people that don't ever have to worry about next month's utilities bill. Or bankroll their passion projects to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds, which makes me incredibly jealous. I think when you're raised on free school meals and tax credits, the only workable option seemingly is to hustle, whatever that means. It's so easy to be a resentful dickhead, but armchair activism achieves fuck all, and neither does a sense of entitlement. So I think you have to create your own opportunities and try and be as savvy and as tactical as you possibly can. And yeah, I think that was probably the biggest takeaway of all for me, was just how costly it can be. So yeah.
Yeah.
Let's finish on a fun one each. You're on a desert island. You've got one film you can watch until the end of time. Which film are you going to choose to take with you?
I would say it's my favorite film, or at least one among my top 3 favorite films, which is Little Miss Sunshine. I just love Little Miss Sunshine. I think it is like one of the best screenplays ever written. It balances humor and kind of like a dark comedy space so beautifully well, and the star cast is incredible. Like we have Steve Carell, and we have Toni Collette, and Abigail Breslin, and so many others, and such a brilliant Paul Dano, and such a brilliant star cast. And just I don't know. I feel it's a lovely music and simple cinematography, and like just how even a prop as the van is a character in the film, and that's so yeah, I would say Little Miss Sunshine for me.
Can I play devil's advocate and say I'm more inspired by television than I am film?
Okay.
My favourite sitcom of all time is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Because it's just a show about 5 assholes shouting over each other, which for my film I took a lot of inspiration from. I love that dynamic of people interrupting and cutting each other off. I'm watching it through again now. It's just my go-to. So if I had to choose a film, I love Leon. Leon's an amazing film.
Good choice.
Far and away, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I think, at the risk of sounding like a pompous asshole, the sentiment and the philosophy behind it, i.e. don't sit around picking scabs, try and get out there, humour is an antidote, try and rely on friendship and connections and camaraderie in the face of hardship. And yeah, I think there's a brilliant scene, I think you probably know it, where McMurphy tries to lift the sink and he can't do it, and everybody looks at him judgingly, and as he exits through the doorway he looks at everyone and he says, well, I tried, goddammit, at least I did that. And I don't know, that spoke to me when I was a teenager, and I've tried to adopt a similar philosophy ever since. So Cuckoo's Nest had a massive influence on me.
Great answers. That's all the time we've got for now, but thank you very much for coming, all of you, for submitting your film. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. We have a round of applause.